Good evening, aviators. It's a little bit later in the day that I'm posting this, but I just kind of wanted to get on here to make a short little podcast because I've just had a lot of things happen recently, and it's been pretty exciting, and I'm really excited for the coming months. So first off, I just kind of want to discuss I am returning back to the busy life as a college student. I just had just a short little break, and it was fantastic. I enjoyed every second of it, and I will kind of discuss about it here shortly. So, also, my instrument training begins tomorrow, May 15th, and I'm pretty excited, a little nervous, just because it's definitely the unknown again, and it's been a while since I've been in the plane, I guess we'll see. But I'm overall just super, super excited and super happy with where I am. So, the theme of this week, starting today, is Legends Never Die. They keep flying. So, I was really inspired by this topic because when I went on a trip to Hawaii over my short little 2-week break, and it was absolutely glorious. I loved every single second of it. However, I had quite another epiphany up in the sky, about 3,000 feet up, in a T-6 Texan. If you don't know what that is, it is a complex tail dragger trainer airplane that was used in World War II, which is pretty exciting. It is a radial engine, very, very loud. I believe it's 9-cylinder. It was amazing. So it was my first time flying in a tail dragger, and like an old complex airplane. We'll just put it that way. Airliners don't count as complex airplanes. But honestly, it was such a grand experience. I could really feel the connection to not only the present, but also a strong connection to the past. So there's just been kind of something that I wanted to discuss, and it's the topic of Legends Never Die. Heroes never die. But then we need to kind of define what is a legend, what is a hero, we can get really in depth with this, but we're just going to kind of keep it simple and basic. So I just kind of want to start off by saying a pilot has a wonderful opportunity of being able to feel lift. You feel lifted up. You're flying. Once those wheels leave the ground, it is unlike any other feeling in the world. It is very amazing, indescribable. There's absolutely no words for it at all. I still remember the first flight I took, Boeing 737, Delta Airlines, 2016. That was amazing. I couldn't even believe what I was feeling. The heart-stopping moment when you realize I'm 3,000 feet up, and then 3,000 turns to 10,000, and then 10,000 turns to 20, and so on. It's really miraculous to think about the creation of aviation and how far we've come. We went from analog instruments like the classic compass, airspeed indicator, attitude, altitude, etc., into the Garmin G1000. And here I am today learning on a Garmin G1000, a complex computer system, compared to the World War II pilots who learned all on analog, all looking outside, and having to rely on those analog instruments when when you were flying into IMC conditions. So it's really interesting to just kind of put perspective on things, and that's one of the like the items of business that is super, super important in aviation is that we as pilots need to keep an open mind, because aviation has never been like this before. Aviation is still much a new industry, and it's really interesting to think about how much more complex and how much more interesting this industry has gotten, because without all of technology, we would still be flying analog. But so what is a legend? What is a hero? To me, a legend and a hero is someone who has done something miraculous. Not like perform miracles, not necessarily huge things, but like small things. Because small things turn into huge things, which are like performing miracles, bringing more something into the world, creating something new, and being able to work in certain conditions and be effectively, people aren't machines, but sometimes it's really interesting to put your perspective into the mind of a machine. But what I wanted to get across here was the Wright brothers. Okay, they had this whole complex idea of making a powered aircraft. At the time, it was only unpowered, so glider, balloon, and that was pretty much it. Parachute, jump off the side of a mountain with your parachute and go paragliding, but in all actuality, they had a vision, and they wanted to make it come true. They wanted this, and I could definitely tell, like, reading about the Wright brothers and what they did, they really wanted this. They wanted it, and so they weren't going to give up. They weren't going to change anything. They were just going to keep going and going and going until they couldn't. So they were able to succeed and create the first powered airplane, the first powered flight. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. They had so many trials and errors, but they never gave up. They never lost sight of what they were doing, their purpose, or why they were working together as a team. So then we have Amelia Earhart. She flew it. Wright brothers built it. Amelia Earhart flew it. She was able to put into new perspectives for females. At the time, females were just working in the house. And do I agree with that? No, not at all. I am a working female that wants a job, and that's all I want to do, pretty much. All I want to do is fly. But Amelia Earhart made it so that I could fly. And I could not be more happier, because what she did at the time was absolutely, like, she had the audacity to do so many things and prove so many people wrong, and people didn't like it, but she was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So she set so many feats and records that I can't even remember every single one off the top of my head. But she solo flew the Atlantic, and I think that's pretty awesome. So then you have Rosie the Riveter. She fixed it. She fixed the planes, kind of revolutionized even more, because it was during the wartime. She revolutionized even more and built this foundation for not just men, but females in aviation. She, in the workforce, she recruited so many more people she inspired them and said, come to work. And she would put rivets in planes, and I thought that was pretty amazing. I did not know who Rosie the Riveter was until a couple of years ago, and I was definitely awe-inspired by her journey. So what exactly, or who, I should say, are more heroes in aviation? Well, Charles Lindbergh, he's kind of overthought of, but he has done a few things to impact aviation. Chesley Sullenberger, Miracle on the Hudson. That was an amazing story, and watch the movie if you haven't, because the movie just kind of puts into perspective just what happened and just how amazing of a feat it was for him to land that aircraft on the Hudson. And then you also have Bessie Coleman and Jacqueline Cochran, the WASPs, Women Air Force Service Pilots. The list goes on. And then you have Frank Abagnale Jr., the imposter, who impacted aviation, but he also impacted the government system, the check system, and the fraud. And then you also have, her name is Jessica Cox. She flies with her feet because she was born with no arms. And I just think that is beyond amazing, that all of these people have pioneered us in this way. They have pioneered us. They have been heroes and legends to get our industry, our world, to where it is today. Because if these things didn't happen, I kind of feel like the world would be pretty obsolete. It would be pretty boring, I think, in my opinion. And I would not like the olden times lifestyle of not being able to be a pilot. So continuing on, I just kind of wanted to explain that because this week I will be mentioning a lot of heroes and what I like to call legends in my blog post. And next week's podcast will be kind of a part 2 to this, explaining more of the T6 flight as well as a B-25 flight that I took. And I will be explaining a lot more of old, like way in the past, legends and heroes, and I will talk about current ones and ones in my life who have inspired me. So this is just kind of like a short introduction to what this week's theme is going to be, and I really wanted to make a theme. I don't usually do it, but I wanted to make a theme because these people need to be heard. These people need to be talked about, and with Mental Health Awareness Month, why not use the time to motivate and inspire? But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this very, very, very short podcast. Part 2 will be out next week, and it will be much more interesting than this one. Anyways, I hope you are all doing well, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.